Where would you like me?
We're kind of thinking you just sort of sitting around in a circle.
Mary Ellen, you sent an accounting yet on our contract?
Yes, yes, I do.
Oh, I want to be sure that I'm not running.
Yeah, no, but that is through July. So we could, make sure it looks good on your state. Yep.
Oh, shoot.
Is he okay?
This morning it wasn't, this afternoon they made up for it.
Oh, is that right?
Why don't we do that? And then we all have
You
to
got it.
do
All your paperwork that we're
so
sending
we
you
can
now,
email.
except for this. If
Yeah,
you
he's
don't
got
log
it.
in, Mary Ellen can sign up for it.
Yeah?
Yeah, so.
So I don't think we're gonna see Ron, I think he's got some health things going on.
Oh dear, okay. And all the questions you asked.
Well, stuff's not cheap, is it, huh? Lumber prices are, of course.
And I think that's a few years old, Dave, so it's kind of just an example of what.
Right, right.
Does he need any paperwork?
I got it.
Okay.
Expecting Frank?
Huh?
Are you expecting Frank?
I am.
Okay. Good.
I get second track.
Well, yes. Yes, fortunately, traffic kept moving, so I think, that's a risk. So hopefully tomorrow I can get that and sign it.
I bet she's eager.
Is that?
I said, I bet she's eager.
Oh, it was structured
So
from,
good.
it was structured from QuickBooks. So expecting the new, museum and streets brochures any minute now.
Really?
They're supposed to be in today, but they didn't arrive today, so hopefully they'll arrive tomorrow.
Nice. When I was driving through the village today, I saw a lot of people clustered around the panels and, yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great thing to do during COVID. Very COVID friendly. Okay, you want to start? Should we, Frank usually runs a couple minutes later. Okay. So, call this order at 5. And I know you guys received in your email, the funding opportunity from MDOT that Emily put, and then I'll put together. So, they want to help us with understanding what's next, or what to do.
Sure, so we put together just some preliminary information on 2 potential programs. We think that SHIP would probably be better suited for this particular project, so that's the Small Harbor Improvement Program. So that funding is up to $250,000 with a 50% match requirement. The application process is ongoing, so essentially we would contact Matt Burns at DOT when we're ready and talk to him about the proposed project. You would submit a letter of intent, an application, and then a project estimating tool, which were attachments. I think they came through. And the eligibility requirements for SHIP are that the project must improve access to the water for the public for either commercial or recreational fishermen or other resource and tourism related industries. It must be on a current or proposed public access facility, and the project and proposed local match must have local elected official approval before being considered eligible for inclusion. The other one we highlighted that we looked into was the boating infrastructure grant, which is the big program. That one's more competitive, and it was also for tie-up facilities that feature transient boaters with vessels of 26 feet or more. So that may be somewhat limiting for this particular project. And their non-competitive funding is $200,000, and then if you wanted more, it would go to a nationally competitive program. And they have a minimum match requirement of 25%, but they do caveat that they would like to have you provide more than the minimum match. And that's a yearly cycle, typically announced in the summer. And that is also Matt Burns at DOT would be a contact for that.
Cool. Thank you. So,
So I think if I understand the guidance from the last meeting correctly, is that the selectmen and Dennis would like to see projected revenues, projected expenses, things like that, and other information around the competitiveness of your location, all that stuff, to be part of the case that you present at some point. So I think so part of the plan is to visit and meet any of our priority, know half of these, some of the other public and private marinas, and sort of ask the questions that are listed on the second page there. Get all kinds of pricing information. It's 90% of the stuff is online these days in terms of fees for this or that. But we also wanted to understand, do they have a wait list, or do they have space available, so we can see if Wiscasset can actually grab some of the waitlist people, if you will, length of the season, and amenities offered. As you know, this would be an interesting opportunity for Wiscasset to say, hey, we've got these 14 slips and we're offering this, this, and this. And you don't have to be offering what everyone else does, but you want to go to someplace where you're starting in a good place. So we have started to gather names. I mean, you probably know them all, but some of the private ones just to see what they're doing, but also the public ones. And off the top of my head, so I forgot to bring a list. We've got these are different kind of communities, so I'm not saying these are exactly comparable. But we have Castine, Bar Harbor, Bucksport, and one other one. Plus, there's more. There's no one listing, unfortunately, of all the publicly owned marinas or piers. But we'd like to work with you if you guys can divvy up some of the inquiry here, some of the research, and then we'll do a little bit of our staff as well. Probably ask Pat Foodier to help us out with some of the, so that we can actually see what and compare what folks are charging.
sure.
And what the amenity package is.
So one thing I've learned about this new board, rather quickly, they're very detail oriented.
Okay.
They want details.
Okay. And so I think we'll take some time. I don't know whether there's not exactly a rush, but we want to get at it and get to it.
Well, I think the time is good now because people are present. When you try to find
Yes.
information in February, people are on vacation,
Yeah. Yeah.
so things are closed or whatever.
Yeah, but maybe some of these practices are things you know about, that that there's a fee schedule, a certain fee schedule for May to September, then a lower fee schedule for April and October, something like that. So there's a little bit of variation from marina to marina, but I think in maybe a month's time, we should be able to get a lot of information. I did also talk to the state about some of the questions that we had, maybe came out of the last meeting. What they're looking to do, because it's public money that went into the study and the designs and stuff like that, and it's public money that will help build it, they're looking for reasonable fees. And so reasonable is in, sort of comparing you guys with other marinas. There is a bit of a sort of a challenge between, so this is a proposal for 14 slips, so that's not a lot, but it's Wiscasset's first venture to really expand there. So I think, some communities, if they have larger facilities, might allow, really low fees on a certain portion of their slips. And then sort of market rate fees for other portions of their slips, so that they know they're getting some revenue, but they're also trying to, allow fees that the average person can afford. And so one suggestion, and this is totally, just a suggestion, and I know we've looked at this before, but could you provide kayak storage and for a very low fee, and not really charge them in the sense that the other boats are being charged. We did find out that you can that there's no set rules on how many commercial fishermen out of the 14. You don't have to limit it to 1 or 2, so it's kind of a balancing act that you'll do based on what you want. Obviously, most of the slips around that we looked at just quickly in the last couple of days, they have daily fees, daily tie-ups, weekly fees, and then seasonal fees. So they have that range, so that you don't want them all to be tied up all season, because that means that only 14 people are going to see your slip. So you want to have a balance, and this is something you guys will work out. But usually there's some that are just for daily and weekly in addition to seasonal.
Does that reflect, like, if it's monthly, it's gonna be less than daily? Is that, or not necessarily?
Maybe not in total, but maybe in terms of a rate that they have. We have to, I didn't really conduct anything, because there's a lot of consistency, I will say, among particularly the private marinas. We'll get that information to you, also hoping that you guys will do a little bit of digging yourself, so.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Did you have a question? Okay. So as we go forward, is it a good idea for each of us to say, take on several marinas and report back with those questions answered?
I think if we can split
Come
up
up
the
with a
work,
list.
it will get done sooner.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't really have time to compile a list, but I've got it like half started, so I can.
Like a template, right?
Yeah, a list of the folks you can call or email. Some of them are probably related to you, I don't really know, and we'll use these questions that are on the second page here, in addition to other things that you might think are needed. Price charged for the different timings I just mentioned. Are they fully occupied for the year, all that kind of stuff. And we can figure out also from their website, a lot of the amenities, though the websites could be a couple years out of date because people are busy doing other things, but I think the 5 or 6 questions that are here, I think are maybe a good start. I don't know if folks have other suggestions. Dick, I don't know whether you were in touch with South Bristol. Was this the $100 charge? Is that per seasonal?
$100 per foot per season. And I was tasked with getting information from people, boat owners, as to whether they would be in favor of it.
Yeah.
I interviewed 4, and I also talked to the Commodore of the Yacht Club, and he interviewed 23. The 4 I interviewed were in favor of it. And one had a skiff, it was all different range of boats. The 23 people that he talked with were all in favor. Neither one of us met anybody that was against it. We also had some people that were ready to reserve a spot right away. Put money in. I was also informed that there's some affluent people that have boats on moorings in the harbor, members of the yacht club. So they all felt, and after listening to them, that there's no problem whatsoever filling all these slips that we've got. And at this point, we don't have near enough to accommodate all the people that want slips. So there would be a waiting list. Not 45 years as yet, but we do have a waiting list. So if we go by South Bristol's numbers, which doesn't seem to be out of line based on the interest. We're looking at $35,000 return to the town each season. Now, that doesn't count seasonal, daily or weekly tie-ups. Now, we've got the float going from the wreck pier out to these new floats or slips that we intend. That's gonna continue to be daily tie-up, and the outboard ones, maybe daily and or weekly with larger vessels. And if we want to allocate a couple to fishermen, I'll make it available. It seems to me we're gonna have to go with a lottery system because there's such a demand. And that was what I was tasked with, and that's
That's
the
great.
information.
That's
Yeah,
good news.
so,
That sound good?
Yes, sir, I like it.
well, it makes total sense because, I mean, boating, I know when I used to be able to do it, one of the nicest things was walk down the dock,
Oh, yeah.
get in the boat, and off you go.
I worked.
Not row out
Yeah,
to
I worked.
anything.
I worked on a crane boat down in Bristol, and I'm telling you, to carry 2 bags of tools down there and just walk aboard the vessel, it's not working.
Big deal. It is a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
And I like
And then the facilities that we were going to modify and change just really puts it over the top.
And it's not even that many, so South Bristol has water, electricity, and porta potty. And so we're looking at a really comparable kind of amenities. You know, others have more amenities, you know, I mean, maybe that can be discussed more when we talk with, actually, as we prepare the application. But
And
no,
I think if this occurs, then it's going to really justify the pump out station. And I think we're gonna be looking at expanding this number of slips. Just looking down the road.
I think we're getting a little better handle on the day and overnight use of that down there, the system that Larry's put in place now. We've collected more money in the last 2 weeks than they've collected, I think, in the last 2 years.
How's that working out? I mean,
Fabulous. I wish I had done it months ago.
Are people using just the drop system?
Hmm?
Perfect.
Yep, they're leaving every day, we go in, we pull envelopes out, there's money in it.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause my son-in-law's parents were up for 10 days, right, straight out front there in the big tower boat there, and they thought it was great, and they met Larry and paid him.
Yep. And he's much more accessible than Ray was. Not dissing Ray
No,
in any
no,
way.
no.
You know, Ray was a very busy man. But, you know, Larry's here,
Right.
he's got a little more on his plate than what he should have, but he's actually having a great time doing this. He loves doing
Oh,
it.
okay.
Mary Ellen, you mentioned small boats, such as kayaks.
Yeah,
We had a proposal from Peter Wells,
yeah.
and he was going to put up a kayak storage rack and free of charge to the town, and whoever rented it would pay the town for those rentals.
Yeah.
And the select board went down there and Judy Cooper said, nah, I don't like it. So that was the end of that.
Yeah, totally cut it down.
So I don't know how many issues were involved in that. I don't know the sort of preservation was looking at it. And I don't really know why it went south, but the area down there and the river really begs for kayak access. And I don't know if it's Camden or Belfast, but one of those communities has a really simple 1 or 2 racks for kayaks, and they're rented by the season, and it's just small money, really in one way, but it's affordable for, for that kind of boat. So I'm hoping that can be part of it. It does not involve the grant, right, because it's a simple thing to get done.
No, I think that
Oh, where was,
if the interest was there from the select board, I'm sure Peter Wells might,
Revisit it?
where we had proposed it,
Look
was
at
a
that.
perfect spot right on the end of
Yeah.
the building, basically.
yeah.
It was
Facing the ramps, it was out of the parking lot, it was,
But she never gave a reason, she just said, no, I don't like it, and that was the end of it.
that's it.
But that was then,
Yeah, and all
Yes,
you asked
yes.
was a
and that
question.
could be different now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a whole different board now, so.
The only question I had for you was, you said comparable towns. Are we gonna look at same size populations, 11 miles up the river to our town? Because a lot of the towns that you mentioned are
Different, very different.
right off the
Right.
open water. I mean,
Yes,
it's
it's
very,
like-
very
I
accessible.
think
What
we
is the
need-
value of that when we now know that we've got such great interest here in this town.
I think you do want to add as much detail as you can, so that we're not missing anything. So I might have misplaced the use of the word comparable. We might run into one or two, but no, what is the market out there right now for in South Bristol and let's say Castine or somebody closer than that, that's municipally owned? And they've got this, and what are their rates, and can you stay below their rates, or not any higher than their rates? And see that that's something that makes sense for where you are right now.
Right.
I think we're not gonna find every, 20 towns 11 miles upstream. I just meant the publicly owned marinas.
Well, we may wanna raise our rate above 100 and then give a special price to the fishermen and come up with like you said, there's no requirement on it, but a certain number for recreational boaters and a certain number for fishermen. Now, we could probably find that out from Jody as to how many fishermen would be interested.
So I think these are all really good elements to collect. I think it might take I think we might wanna talk about the range of fees that you wanna put out there. I know, the state, because they gave you the grant money and they'll give you more money to build it, they don't want to see unreasonable rates that might discourage, your average person from being able to afford it. So that's something we can discuss.
Joe working class, right?
Yeah, I don't have the answer right now, but I would, so, I think it's, 14, I agree with you, Dick. These will be waitlisted from the time the construction starts on that, but, I just wanna make sure we're covering the territory, so the selectmen can say, you've got every municipally owned marina within 100 miles, and you've got the regional ones that are privately owned, and you know where those are, so that you're gonna set the rates such and such, so I think it takes a little bit of still working out to do.
I think that due diligence is also gonna be able to help you define the select board. This is a comparable season compared to these other marinas. Is it April through September, May, Memorial Day through Labor Day? What does that look like? What type of boats are they bringing in? Is it mostly 25 foot, 25 to 35 foot? Do they have a couple of bigger boats that's, have a slip for the season? So then what you could even do in theory is take that plan that Gartley and Jaworski drew and actually measure out and say, okay, we're looking at 10 boats that are above or between 25 and 35 feet. We've got a couple that are going to be above, a couple that are below, and actually scale them on the plan. And then you can really estimate your number in terms of how much you're charging. If it's $100 by foot, you can actually calculate that out in a very clean way. And you have something in your hand when you go to the select board that says, we've interviewed these 10 or 15 marinas, we've looked at all of the data, and this is what we've come up with. And it's a number that you can stand by and have a data backing behind you as you present that.
The Commodore says between 22 and 36 feet is the average boat size that he is knowledgeable of.
In Bristol?
Sir?
In Bristol?
Right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
here.
So this, forgive me, I don't know all the structure of the yacht club, but does the yacht club have a waiting list, for the use of their, boats or, their tie-ups? Not that I can picture them exactly, do they have tie-ups?
No, they've got moorings, and then if you have a mooring, you can keep your skiff on.
All these people have moorings.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
And
they
the
will,
people that I interviewed have moorings.
okay,
So we're talking about people that will change their mooring out for a slip.
okay.
Which is fine, because we still have a long waiting list for moorings as well, so.
Yeah,
The
no, that's
problem-
good, thank you.
The problem I'm seeing is, it sounds like the yacht club folks wanna jump on board if the town's financing it. Why doesn't the yacht club folks finance their own shit? Excuse my language.
Yeah, you're on tape, you're on tape here.
It's the people with boats. It's the people
Yeah.
with moorings and boats,
That
and the
travel.
majority of them are yacht club members.
And that's gonna be a hard one to.
Right, I mean,
to
how
say
do you
that we're gonna-
justify?
Except for
Well,
the fishermen.
Right. See, I'd like to see us separate it,
Yeah,
yacht club side, and make available, have them folks pony up and make available if they wanna come over to the town side, fine, but I'd like to have it available so we can do our current plan, and then also have available to the selectmen an expansion plan, if all this takes off, with some dredging going out a bit and extending it out towards where Hespo was and look a little, have some dredging, if, it sounds like there's 23 boats that might be interested along with our current slips, now 4 units.
One way that you might be able to, so you're not gonna be able to build this and then tell the yacht company, well, you can't. You can't come here.
Right.
One way that it might be able to do it off the top of my head is to make so many available for residents.
Right.
And then so many for non-residents,
Non-residents.
because some of the yacht club people I know don't live in town.
Right.
so-
But those are details that we really can't face until
I wouldn't,
the slips are in or almost in.
Right.
And then we decide how we're gonna manage it.
Right.
Because I'm sure Larry is going to be thoroughly involved with this. And they decide, like the outboard ones, you may wanna make them weekly or daily, depending on what he's got for traffic.
Yeah.
So,
It's just a little irritating to me that they didn't want anything to do with us until it's a benefit to the yacht.
Yeah, I understand.
That's irritating. And I would just like to make it available so we can go with our current plan we already have, that you
Yep,
researched.
yep.
And also have an expansion plan in place, have it all ready so we can go, this is our current plan, and this is if it takes off, we want to expand to here. And have 2 different plans with costs all ready to go,
So,
because it sounds like,
I don't think there's gonna be any problem filling them.
that's what you said, yeah, I mean, that's gonna be great.
I agree.
So I think we're all gonna learn a lot over the next couple of months as we do this research and collect it and present it in a manner that the selectmen are gonna be able to digest it. So your point about doing a lottery for some of those things, doing even reduced fees for residents, that's what some towns are
Right.
doing. Modestly reduced fees, so that you're at least giving some credit to folks who live here. So
Right.
I think it's gonna be tricky, and I don't want us to be making too many public statements about, how this should be until we,
Right.
learn a little bit more, and come to some agreement. But no, we get your point, Dave, because, again, I think the lottery is sort of, we'll work at it.
Yeah, the lottery sounds like a good,
And
sounds like,
that's another option.
sounds like a fair way to do it, you know?
Yeah.
if you got 30
For so many-
people,
for so many.
Yeah.
14 slips, I guess that's the only way you can do it.
Well, I think it's the only way you could do it fairly. Make, like Dennis said, make 4 slips available for out-of-town folks, or fill a lottery, and say 10 for in-town folks, or whatever, If that's a town manager and somebody can set that number however they wanna do it, and then have a lottery.
That's the way-
It's kind of like the shellfish licenses.
Right.
It costs more for
Yep.
the non-residents than it does for the residents. So this wouldn't be out of line to do the same thing.
Right.
And that's how they allot out of residents out of town, right, by lottery, because there's only so many out of town houses.
Yeah.
Sounds the fairest way to go. That's great,
Yeah,
Sounds like you got a lot.
it'd be nice, it'd show nice, it could happen.
What other information do we need to put this together? I mean, that's just one aspect of it.
That's just one aspect of that, and so we'll get out to you guys a list of mostly public, but also some private marinas, and, with the names of them and these questions, and so hopefully you'll take 2 or 3 and call them. So the piece is, Susan was thinking about, how to estimate the cost of, managing the harbor master building and taking care of everything like that, so we wanna be able to present, along with the glorious income figures, how much is it gonna cost, not only to build, but to maintain, so we were gonna reach out to.
So, yeah, so I'm gonna talk to Larry and Ted about float maintenance and all that, lawn mowing, and Dwayne about the bathrooms. Yep. So the questions, my draft questions are sort of on the back of your, or on page 2 of your thing.
Oh, okay.
Which basically are very similar to, except for the and help out. You heard from him?
I emailed and called her on Monday, and she is like impossible to get a hold of. I mean, the last I talked to her, and this was, what are we into, September now? Is it really September?
Mhm.
Was back in July, around the 1st of July, and she said we were all set, it was approved, we were set, but then I haven't heard anything from her since.
So do you see that being, is there any chance we could hold on to it until the slips are installed? And that presumes a lot, that we get the grant in, we get the grants, things like that, so that could be a year to two out.
Right.
Versus trying to install it now on the setup that you have.
Right, I think that was, the plan was to go through it now and purchase it, if I'm not mistaken. Purchase it through the grant, and then kind of hold it to our slip things on
As
the
long
way,
as
and
we
then.
can do that, right? I don't know if it
I
has to be
we have
installed.
to look at the terms of the grant, so
Yeah.
I don't know what it's good for.
Yeah.
But I can have that discussion with her right up front.
As soon as she returns your phone call, yeah.
If she
Soon as
ever
she-
returns- Oh, my phone call or email.
Right.
Some of them still working from home, so
Oh,
even if
yeah.
you call the main office, they transfer you over to her
Yeah, their home phone number.
voicemail, and
Right, that's
it is kind of frustrating.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm gonna follow up with those folks in town and get back to about the cost and how much of things will increase and whatnot.
So would any of the, I'm just looking at the higher end items here, would any of the costs of the cameras and the operations of those cameras be then put into, this project as some of the long-term operation expenses, Dennis, or, once they're in, they're in, and,
And
Still
once they're in, they're in.
Okay, I just wanted to ask about that, yeah.
The cameras are kind of a separate offer,
Oh,
so
okay.
no, I wouldn't.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
But they're kind of already in the budget already, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's all, they're gonna stay at the waterfront, so,
Yeah, just wanted to, you know, they're not,
No, I wouldn't.
inexpensive, so, okay, all right.
so it won't be additional.
Good, all right.
that's kind of a good
Just
return
awesome
on money
upgrades.
right there.
So have you guys given any thought to, I know we're talking about slips and stuff, but launch fees, you know, these people that come in and launch a boat, go out for the day and come back. They are beating up our ramp
No doubt.
on a regular basis.
So that's a question, I think, for Larry too. I mean, what they did at Mount Haven, just said, I know we have launch fees, and I know, like, I called a couple, like CWC and the boat launchers who really are heavy on the ramps, and either they don't know what I'm talking about, or they've never taken.
But, you know, especially these commercial holidays.
And I personally think those are the people to, I don't know, send an invoice once a year, I don't
Well,
know.
it wasn't, I remember we discussed that
I
as a
know.
committee, and
Yeah.
Dwayne said that he would be able to take a picture of the license plate.
With the cameras, we can capture license plates, yeah.
And we would be able to bill them.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that was part of it.
Mhm.
And that's the.
With the same cameras.
But I also agree with you. They get these commercial guys, because 90% of the boats that they're launching are out-of-town boats. And it's just convenient for them.
Mhm.
It is a nice.
Like, and the
place to
boats
launch.
go in
Yeah.
booth bay,
It
it's
is, but
easier.
they are, you know, they're beating up our
Beating up our
ramps and not paying for it.
Right.
And so then the question would be, are we gonna charge them just the annual permit fee, or do you wanna charge them per launch?
For launch.
Yeah, that's.
For a launch, but then something, he's gonna, well,
I
once
think-
again, the cameras will take a picture, right? In theory.
But that usually means we end up having to chase our money.
Well, that's why I was thinking
With
maybe
the camera
start with
system.
a permit.
And our history of chasing money for people up at the dump has
Yeah.
not been great, so.
So
I
there
don't know
are
what you mean.
so there are no fees now for launching?
We're not charging anything.
Okay, so this is something that we could that the committee could recommend, develop, and get the selectmen to approve it from.
Yeah.
You actually
we have-
probably, you could do that,
We have a little table of
You could
local,
go
like,
separate.
local fees and things like that that was done recently.
There was like,
The girl who was here just before you, I think, put it together.
I'm next.
It was someone,
I'm-
it wasn't.
You're going too far, you're going too far back for my brain cells tonight.
Sorry.
There was a
We do
couple,
have some
like,
more current.
5, 8 years ago, we had a fee structure set up for launching down there.
Mhm. We have one somewhere.
Yeah, under Mr. Gustafson, but it was never enforced.
Right.
Was it
That's when
ever,
it started.
was it ever approved to start with?
Yes,
The selectmen
yes.
approved?
By the selectmen, but it was never enforced like it should have been.
No. And it's gonna take someone to.
Yes.
But the
Yeah,
camera-
well, I have
the
somebody that
camera
would
could.
gladly enforce it now, so.
Okay.
He's in a position to do so.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of late in the season to start it,
Mhm.
to start it now.
But we'll be ready for next year.
Till spring, we'll be ready for next year.
So would like clammers and wormers be exempt, or it would be part of their
I don't
license
think we
fee
can
that they
exempt
pay?
anybody.
I don't know that you want to exempt them, that's why I kind of go back to, maybe an annual permit for
Well,
somebody
that's
like
what-
that. They just
when
go-
they pay for their license or whatever for the
Right,
year.
when they get their
They just pay an extra.
clamming license, something, and make it minimal, don't, maybe, because they don't do the damage like the big haulers do.
Right,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
that's for sure.
Make it so they can make a living, but still make it a token thing, so they know that nothing's for free, you know, that
Yeah.
everything costs money nowadays, and we've gotta get some of our money back. You know, it's just that easy. You know, say like $50 or $100 a year permit, you know, I don't know, you know, I mean, and the guys who dig every day,
Would pay it. and
they're
look
gonna
at
pay
it.
it a hobby, because they're gonna make it back in
Right.
3 days, you know?
Don't they pay to keep their worm cars down there anyway?
They do pay for
something
that,
for
yeah,
it.
we do get some revenue from that, they are
Yeah.
paid, yeah.
So just include it with,
Yeah, I'd like to have it separate, so.
so you have to actually have the vote.
Right, it's easy, because not everybody has worm cats, and have, if they want, they pay. You know, it's just, but make it reasonable for the working man, so you're not hurting him, you know? He's just trying to make a living like everybody else does.
So how likely is it for Dennis, if you could find the thing that was proposed 5 years ago?
Yeah, there's a while
Have her
ago.
write a copy of it.
Or maybe
Yeah,
she's just
good
got a
luck.
copy, because she's been chairperson for a little while. So you
It
know.
started
you know
with
what-
Sid Gammon and
Yeah.
Gussie, right in there, it's when it started the launch piece.
So
And
Lisa
then
would
it
have
just
done.
wasn't,
So if we can take a look at that again and
Yeah,
update it.
but I mean, it's probably outdated.
Oh,
It's the,
absolutely.
it's the
Right.
form I'm thinking of. I thought a more recent one was done.
I don't know.
I'll like that.
Right.
Box.
call
Anyway, apparently you've been busy. I don't recall them. No, that'd be great, so we could get that implemented or approved by the selectmen, then it goes to the selectmen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
it, right, and then they'll be ready for next year.
If we go by Gartley's cost, we rounded off to 450,000, would that mean 135,000 the town would have to pony up?
Well, let's see, I'm gonna just put that in
So we have
comparison
to
to
pony
the.
up half?
Yes, generally speaking, but, and so we could go to, small harbor improvement program for, 175 from them and 175 for the town. Yep. Again, I think at some point, as we, in the next, month or two, it wouldn't be bad if we were in contact with Matt Burns, just at the state, just to say, hey, we're thinking about this, is there gonna be money available? I'm not money available, but it's, you never take things for granted here, so. Matt does a lot of work around the state, so I think it'd be helpful to talk with him ahead of time, so we don't just throw the application in and pray for the best.
So is that something you would do?
Well, depending on Dennis's workload, and whether he wants to, have this relationship with Matt, at some point we will, right? We could definitely call
I
him.
hope it's better than the one I have with Pam.
Is there any chance in hell that we could ever get that amount of money?
I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of money.
I'm sorry?
I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of money.
No.
Not for what I think this is gonna produce back from us. So, no, I would push for that.
And if we could come up with somewhere around $35,000 a year or $30,000 a year return, is that a decent payback?
I'd have to study that a little bit more, but, I think that's,
That sounds.
For that plus accurate mooring fee collection.
and that, but that's, and you're only talking about this,
You're
we're
only
not
talking
talking
about
about, the fuel and some of the other stuff that could go along with
No,
this.
we're talking 5, 6 years payback, that's decent.
That's a decent return, I think, for what we're, for this type of thing.
Yeah, it sets us up pretty well for, doing more
When
engineering.
business invests, that's a decent return time.
Yeah, that's setting you up for an expansion that's probably larger than
That
14 years.
that may continue to happen. I just, especially if we can get a grant for 50%, I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of money to ask for. We've asked for a lot more for other stuff.
Right. I think this is gonna expand like gangbusters. I mean, once it's in, and then finally, the selectmen will think of it as a gem waterfront instead of a burden waterfront. It's always been a burden. Nobody wants to put any money in. Nobody wants to do anything with it.
Well, and that's just, I don't think anybody's really come forward with a good plan to say,
Right, right.
this is the potential, this is what we really can do with this, here's the
Right.
nuts and bolts. And I know you tried, but remember, this is also a different board than past years. We just need to.
And a different manager too, you know, that's the
Yeah,
key.
and, you know, and I know I've had people come up to me and say, this is a waste of money, people are not gonna motor, whatever, the 12 miles up this
Yeah.
river. But then I have others that tell me they will, so, you know,
Oh,
maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea to
I
drive up in
think-
here, but.
This does not depend on the.
Right, this does,
It
right.
doesn't.
No,
Right.
And
This
the
does.
pump out station by itself did,
right,
Mhm.
so
Right.
this is a little different ball.
right, and without marine supplies and groceries for
Yeah.
transient boaters available out there, they got no reason to come up here when they go right in Blue Bay, right along, you know, duck in, right back out, and right down the coast, you
Yeah.
know, it's just.
But it might be a different class of, that you're looking
Right,
for,
right.
instead of people that are looking for supplies and stuff, this may be the people that wanna go out to dinner.
Mhm.
They wanna come to Red's.
Right.
They wanna come
Water Street or.
Bistro or Water Street. And we had people come in last night that called Larry and asked for, you know, where can we come up here to eat, what's a good place to go?
Right.
You
They're all
know,
good.
shop in our shops and.
One of the questions from a couple of people that were interviewed was, you know, we have to go all the way to Boothby Harbor or 5 Islands to get gas to operate the boat.
Right.
So,
Well, I believe you
just
probably,
asked that question, that's all. And,
you probably know this, but there are people, I know there are Wisconsin residents that moor down in Blue Bay.
Yep.
Because they, you know, that's where the fuel is.
and we talked about maybe being creative, like putting a tank and a pump on a pickup truck and have it available.
Right.
And, that way there's no permitted installation, there's no, shouldn't be any fees or permitting.
Some entrepreneurs have floating gas stations in harbors, you know?
Yeah, Hartley Marine did, he had one in Boothby Harbor, and it worked very well.
Right. And that really is a town of any.
But that requires a big investment.
Oh, sure.
But a tank on a truck with a hose that'll reach from the commercial field down to low tide
Right.
is not much of an investment
Right.
if someone wanted to do that.
Yeah. I agree.
I was volunteering at the art walk last week and ran into people from Westport who had just voted over for the evening. And they just do the art walk and have some meeting, so I think the local use for 14 slips, you know, so maybe the marketing, effort doesn't have to be that much, because we are looking at different kind of voting for sure, but, you know, this is, you know, it's shaping up to be, I think, a very positive project and
Oh, I think so.
doable project.
I think it's very doable.
Yeah. Me too. I mean,
The
it's
cost came in a little less than I was expecting it.
Okay, do you think he's done with that? Does he need more feedback from you guys around?
I don't think so, I think he's.
I just was, I thought.
Unless you want him to design an expansion, and. I don't
Not
think
sure
he's
how much
done
money
it.
is left in the grant, so.
Well, I haven't seen the bill for him yet, so I have no idea where we're at with this.
There you go.
You know, you and I talked about parking,
Yes.
and if we extended, if we got parking between the two piers, we could go off of a different location.
Right.
With water and electrical, as opposed to, because if you go out here on this float, and then you go to those, and then you go, you're probably walking half a mile by the time you get to your boat.
Mhm.
So
And
maybe
right where it
a
is
different
now.
location might be more reasonable
Right.
for expansion.
Right, instead of, right, if we had our 14 slips where it is now, instead of dredging where Hesper and Luca were, if we could hook onto our creamery pier and go right straight out,
No parking, there's no parking there.
I know that, but right straight out from the bridge, we wouldn't have to dredge any for our slips out
Right.
there. And then we have to find our parking on the other side of Route 1, you know.
Between the two piers.
Right.
And then,
Well, David's got other plans for parking, right? You've got other, you know, I don't know how many, so.
But
the search
It's
for-
David's pipe dream. It's just-
But we need these pipe dreams because
Right.
we need to go, is this working or is there something else?
Well, that's how we come up with things, you just
Right.
keep throwing stuff on the wall.
That's nice, I meant that as a compliment. Thank you.
but if this is, if this goes and is successful, then that parking may not be out of line.
Right. And it's so doable. It's basically not a lot to maintain. It's gravel. You use it in the summer when the peak packing is, and you don't do anything to it in the winter. It's done. And in the spring, you check it for potholes, and you send the grader down, and you're ready to go. You know, there's no sealing the pavement, there's no paving it, there's no oil products near the water from the pavement, you know, it's just so simple, it makes sense, you know, it's just trying to get through to the powers that be, that they wanna do this and wanna.
Are there any additional, work items or job items that we need other than what you
You're
checked
gonna
here?
send a list around, right?
Yep,
And that's checking the other marinas.
Yeah, so I'll send you a list and you guys are
So
ready.
do you want to send me, send me the whole list and I'll break it down into
Right.
Dave's list, Dick's list,
Sure,
Susan's list,
sure.
Frank's list.
So you're organizing.
Like that, is that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or you can break it down.
Oh, no, I want you to, no,
Or a report
this is
list.
your committee, not your.
Or a port.
Yeah, this is your committee. I don't wanna get too far forward, on the application itself. I wanna make sure that we feel like we're putting together a good case that Dennis can review and then say, hey, it looks good, or you can present to the selectmen in December or January. You know, I wanna keep our focus on that as opposed to diving into the application, right now.
Okay. Sounds fun to me. So I'll go talk to the other department heads and get some projected numbers. It's okay if they're gonna be projected, right?
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Although we can, I think with like the floats, repairs, I can come pretty close, I can pull that information myself.
Okay.
We can come pretty close to that.
Okay. Great. Good.
Yeah, cause I think Dennis has a pretty good feel for what's gonna go, and what's not gonna go.
Yeah, yes.
And if he feels positive about it, I'm pretty confident that.
Well, let's get a draft to, you know, to him, you can go, yeah, you covered everything, or you missed something, or something, and, again, I'm not sure the time frame, but maybe, I don't know, November to wrap
That's
this
what I
up?
was just thinking.
What is
If
it?
I'm right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to try to do is give me a little bit of time before we get started on budget stuff. We're gonna try to
Yeah,
do something
yeah.
this thing, because we'll start budget stuff, be ready around the first of February. So
Okay,
Yeah, you could
we
do
wanna
some
have time to
policies
be able to
then,
tweak
too.
things before we get too far into.
Okay. Well, that seems good.
Great. So,
It's
awesome.
exciting.
I think so.
I have one more thing
Great.
for you guys. Next week is our regular meeting,
Yeah.
and I have a conflict, so can we put it off to another?
Yeah, or put it on
Either the
another-
following Thursday, or I was thinking the 23rd.
Another date,
Good for
pick
me.
another day,
You
either
wanna skip a month?
Wednesday or,
I don't wanna skip because I wanna keep us going
right,
with all our stuff.
Tuesday night or.
I was kinda thinking the 23rd, which is it's the end of the month. Well, then it's the 30th. And then our next regular meeting would be October 7th, I think?
The 14th is the second year, are you still, is your?
Yeah, okay, so so if we met the 23rd,
Then you would meet the 14th,
yeah,
you just do that.
unless we need another
9/23.
workshop in between.
I think we're gonna be working anyway.
And we would do this anyway, okay. So is that okay?
5
And I'll
o'clock.
tell Kathy, yeah.
So is it, warrant
Thank
been
you.
finalized for November? The
Yes,
warrant?
yes, they did it on Tuesday.
Okay, so I saw some things, I wasn't sure if it was done, so.
Yeah.
So for November, what are we having finalized, just our draft to get to Dennis or the application?
No, not the application, we don't wanna go forward unless Dick does it in his sleep, but we don't wanna go forward on that until we get permission to do that.
Okay.
Right, no, I would,
So the draft information.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna take a bit to accumulate and then put it into full sentences and make it understandable.
Mhm.
Right,
And then
right.
Go back and re-ask questions that we forgot a little piece, yeah.
Yeah, and see whether something's missing, so,
No
yeah.
problem. So
Great.
I did ask a question of Will Gartley about, somebody asked about Army Corps having any trouble permitting something, someone asked me to ask. Did you last time? And he said as long as you don't get, you need to stay 25 feet out of the channel.
But I don't anticipate, I talked to Will about that a little bit, I don't anticipate there being any problem.
Mm-hmm.
Larry's going tomorrow to Cape Elizabeth to pick up the boat.
Okay?
Oh, wow, oh, that's great.
And then we can outfit it, we got, we could get a,
Well, the Belmont, it comes with the radio, it comes with the sonar, it's coming with all the stuff, it's whatever fire department
we got a
has,
floating stuff and put on the front and on the back. And
whatever stuff you're gonna put on it, so.
so we're gonna,
That's great, congratulations.
I know, we could,
finally, we got
nice.
our own boat that's not a liability like Ray's or whoever's boat would be used to use in the past, you know, it's just not a good thing, it's just not a good thing.
No. Key phrase, in the past.
Yeah, that's right, move forward.
Okay, guys, anything else?
We'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Right.
Thank you, Ellen.
Sure.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
good. Thank you guys for your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
That's gonna be great.
Okay, now, but now we have to rearrange the furniture. From our little circle.